YouTube. Welcome to another video by the Happy Woodworker. Today we're continuing our chess set, and today I'm working on the bishop. So starting off, just as we have, I've got a blank turned down to round, or pretty darn close to it. I've put in my starting line, and we are going to start turning our chess piece. Again, this design is one of my own. I went through about 3 dozen pictures and I cut 4 or 5 different templates to see what I would like best, and this is what I came up with. So, without further ado, here we go. I'm going to start. I've made my mark where I'm going to start the base. I'm going to come in with a little miniature parting tool. Alright, I'm going to get my height and get some of my other lines marked out here. See how close I came. Sometimes I like to do this with the lathe on. Start to cut in around there. About right. It's actually a little short, but I like short because I can always come back in and fix it. And let's double check my measurement here. I should still be. I kind of create these by hand and then figure out measurements after. You know, I know a lot of guys use a story stick or storyboard for this. I just use a template. Works for me. Use what works for you. Alright, so we're going to start with our base. You know what, before I do that, let's get a measurement for circumference. I know what I'm turning to. I can pass over that. I've actually got a couple different templates going. Let's make sure they all still look the same. I want the largest one. So I can always take off more to make things match. But you can't add the wood back once you've taken it off. Alright, first step. And you'll know there's going to be a difference here with my line. All of my bases are the width of my parting tool. I did that intentionally, so the lines are kind of like guidelines. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So next up, I'm looking at my lines. I'm going to start to make a cut in on this. Go. Let's do another hold it up and compare it. My line looks like it's just about on the money right there. I think I'm going to come in with a parting tool on that too before I do that. What I'm doing here is actually getting the circumference of this little inner lip. So let's do that real quick. I want to be right there. Okay. And I've got a ways to go. Not a lot, but a ways. Just a hair more to even that, and it's good. Okay, this I'm going to bring down the same circumference as my base. I'm just eyeballing that. Go back to my parting tool. For this, I'm going to start to bead that over. Same thing on the top. Very light pressure. Very light. Not doing much to that at all. I'm actually going to switch to a smaller one because sometimes this is just easier to get in here. Okay, next up. And I've got to do some work to that, but that's actually pretty close. I've rounded that one a little more, I think. When I put the groove in here, I've got an inset groove. That will come pretty close to matching. Alright, next up we're double checking our lines to see where we're at. I'm going to start hogging this out. And I'm going to use the line that I've got, but I need to come a little bit past it. I can always take off more later. Switch over to our spindle gouge, our detail spindle gouge. I'm going to pause and get a circumference on this. My most narrow point is actually about right here. So I'm coming down in, leveling, and then I'm kind of coming right back up a little bit on this side, but not by much. If you actually look at my template, you almost can't tell. So what I'm going to do is take a parting tool right in the middle, or close to it, at the most narrow point. I'm going to drop that approximately to the circumference that I want. I'm just using a regular parting tool for that. That's pretty close. It's not quite, but I'm going to stop there because you know you're going to take down a little bit more. Then we're going to start evening this. Now, I know I usually say work from top to bottom, but I'm kind of going backwards here. Next up, I'm going to even this down with my parting tool. Just to where there's a little bit left, then I'm going to tilt my parting tool a little bit to get the effect that I want. And I'm not quite happy with that yet. Let's take it some more. All I'm doing is taking off sawdust, little tiny bits. The nice thing about using the parting tool here first is I can see lines where I was at. So I'm just taking this down to where those lines pretty much disappear. There we go. That's what I want. Alright. That ought to be the width of my top piece. As long as my lines match up, and they do. Alright. Let's make a line on right there. Okay, and I need to get a measurement up top. Go to my little handy dandy measuring stick. I think I've just about killed that pen in, but I can see the mark. There we go. Pencil works better, but for some reason I've always liked using a pen. Okay. Go to our parting tool for that. There we go. And then I've got to hog out all of this actually. And this time we're going to get the measurement right. I'm going to start again by getting a measurement. My ball is wider than my little sleeve here, whatever you want to call that. So I'm going to take the whole thing down. I'm setting my measurement a little bit big. I don't know if the camera will pick that up. I'm saving a good 32nd of an inch here. That way I can just roughly hog this out, get it down to about the right circumference, and then I can take a finer cut later for an actual pretty finish. I am going to put a line in this. That way as I'm hogging this down, I don't go too far. Edges sometimes disappear. Just like that. I guess I'll take that line off again. We're at 100 miles of room to go. Just to be obsessive compulsive here, let's double check. Yes, I've got the right width there. This one's way smaller. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. So I've still got to take off quite a bit. Ooh, I need to tighten that a little. Okay. There we go. You get that noise, just tighten your tailstock a little bit. Softer woods compress easier. Once you start reducing the amount of wood, they compress more, so these kind of loosen up a little. Okay, that puts me just over height. Alright, so next up, see I've got a little bit of tear out right there. This is why I leave extra, so I can take a real fine cut later. It's not a lot of tear out, it's just a little bit. Oh, where'd my pen go? I had a pen. Where'd I put it? Right there. Okay. I think right there is what I'm looking for. Let's have a look. About there. And then we're going to get a circumference on that. And this time we're going to get the correct one. We want to be right there. So we're going to take that down to that. It should not take long. There we go, we're there. Alright. I'm going to take a new measurement, this time on the ball, on the actual size I want. We're going to start to shape this. And I'm pretty darn close, as you can see, if I can wiggle through that. just about right where we want to be. Again, to protect my lines as I'm cutting into this, I'm going to put a line back in, just in that corner. Look at my shape and kind of study it here. Make sure I do this properly. And let's switch over to our smaller skew. Shape that I want. What I want is to actually go in a little further on the bottom. So let's take another cut into that and then even it. Some of that out of my way. Okay, and switch back to the small one. I have a steeper bevel angle on my large one, so I can get into finer points, whereas this one is not quite as steep. So sometimes I actually use my big tool to get into smaller areas. I have a sharpening video if anybody's interested, or a reshaping video. And part 2, most people actually, it seems like to watch me actually do the reshape. But I took a lot of time to explain why I was reshaping them and how in part 1, so check that out if you want to understand how I did that. That in itself is a good shape. Mine has more of a cut here. So let's start on that. Some of that out of my way. And let's do another comparison, see where I'm at. I'm gonna come back a little bit more. I'm going to start taking finer cuts though. I need to come in at a steeper angle. I'm being careful not to actually separate this because I'm not done with this yet. So, in here, we have a whole curve. So I'm going to switch over to a real fine tool, and with this you've got to be something wicked careful. These little fine tools, you just need no pressure at all. Otherwise you get a lot of tear out. I can feel some there. Sometimes I'll actually tilt this at an extreme angle down. That way I'm just barely, more like not even scraping. Also helps to have your tool rest closer when using these, and I'm not right now. Shame on me. And this I'm pretty much shaping just by eye. Switch over to my little mini skew. I'm going to try and even this a little. And then even kind of cut down into it some. Try to make a heck of a challenge for sanding that. I'm going to round this edge. And eventually we'll do the same thing here, but I got to bring that out some more. Let me do a visual comparison. Okay, I need to bring the top in a little more. Okay, that's pretty darn close right there. Next up, we got to bring this down to circumference. There are 100 different ways to skin a cat. You don't necessarily have to do this in this order. Matter of fact, you can start at the top and work your way that way if you wanted to. Use what works best for you. Look at that. Just about where I belong. Did I get that where I wanted it? I did. Okay. Almost there. Make sure. That's back where where I want it, then I'll even that again. And we're there. Just touching. For this, I'm going to come back, and this is a little tiny detail gouge, by the way. A little tiny spindle gouge, what I sometimes call a flute. Now for this, I'm creating a curve in here, so we're just going to take off tiny little bits at a time. So I'm coming in at an angle, turning. Hopefully the camera can see that as I go. Just cutting in with the tip. And you got to be light as a feather to do this. Otherwise it tears it out and leaves you with a mess. Get the impression my camera is playing jokes on me today. I'm just evening this all up. I'm going to come in here and put my little step in here. Nice and slow, just sawdust. Particularly as you approach this edge. Okay, and I'm going to even this a little. Nice fine cuts. So hopefully I'm avoiding any tear out. Myself some extra, so when I separate it I can sand it to a nice point, have the height still be the same. You can kind of see what I'm doing there, hopefully. I don't want to take it too small though, because I still have to sand it and put some pressure on it to do that. Ready to separate it yet. Pull out my file, round it on one side, flat on the other. See if we can make it pretty. I'm just rolling that file over my curve here. It'll reinforce the shape. Like I said, I like using a file before I use sandpaper. I can feel little imperfections in the wood. I can still shape things and get them to do what I want. That beautiful little curve in that. Switch to my flat side from my flat edges, back to my rounded. Back to my flat for this edge. Flat for this section, then we'll convert over to a rounded. I can feel like I've got a hump right here. By coming at this at an angle, I can help take that out and not create any more odd lines in my wood. Never would have felt that in the sandpaper. If I don't like my curve, then I'll just use the file to create a little more. Get it right where I want it. Flat side for that. Flat side for this. Round it over. Still using the flat. Flat for this one. I ought to have a halfway smooth piece here. Not bad. After I put some sandpaper to this, that will come out just about perfect. You can see I've got a little bit of a rough edge right here. This is where I was a little aggressive with the parting tool cutting down in here. I do find that I sometimes get a little bit of tear out in the bottom of the grain here. That's still easy to take out with some sandpaper and some work, but if you make a slower cut, you'll end up with a better edge right here. Anyway, that's the design for my bishop in my chess set. I hope you've enjoyed, and I will be doing a king, a queen, and some knights as soon as I come up with the final design for those. So I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.